Thank you for your patience, also your willingness to participate in our recorded Fulbright info session. We're actually doing this so this presentation will be made available on our website. So welcome to take notes, but we'll also make this accessible. Also feel free to tell your colleagues if they weren't able to make it today. But so yeah, thank you for coming. This is part of our second annual Fulbright Week. Our guest today is Meaghan Dolan from Council of International Exchange of Scholars. Did I say that correctly? CIES, the administrative body that oversees the Fulbright Scholar Program. So I'm going to let Meaghan take it from here, but if you have any questions, we just ask that you use this really fun mic so that our folks that are watching this can be able to hear. So.
Great. Yeah, great. Thanks so much, Anna. Thank you so much for coming to the presentation. Since we're a small group, I think we can make this as interactive as our technology will allow, but we can certainly take questions throughout the presentation as well. I have a rather large PowerPoint presentation, so parts of it I'm going to try to move quickly so that we can have time at the end for your questions as well and speak about the things that you make sure to cover the things that you want to learn today. So this is who I am. I am the regional lead for Europe and Eurasia with the Fulbright U.S. Scholar Program. So U.S. academics and professionals going over to Europe and Eurasia. That's my portfolio. But I am, of course, here speaking on behalf of the entire U.S. Scholar team. And also I will be speaking just more generally about all of the opportunities available within Fulbright. So CIES is actually a division of the Institute of International Education. So that's where I'm coming from. And this is briefly what we'll be covering. So I'll give a brief introduction to the program. We'll talk about the Core Scholar Program. We'll talk about additional U.S. scholar opportunities, and then we'll move on as well and talk about the visiting program. So this is just a really lovely slide. I think it's new to our presentation. I'm just kind of showing the long history of the Fulbright program. So on the left is a picture of Dr. Joseph Withy. He was an associate professor of English at East Carolina College in Greenville, North Carolina. And here he is pictured discussing a planned book on Burmese dancing and dramatics with one of Burma's leading dancers as part of his scholar research in 1960. On the right, we have Linda Chamberlain, adjunct professor at the University of Alaska and director and public health scientist at the Alaska Family Violence Prevention Project. And she was a 2014 Fulbright Arctic Scholar. So she is there on her grant experience. So just showing the range and the history of the Fulbright program. The Fulbright program was established 70 years ago to strengthen the relationship between the people of the United States and the rest of the world. Of course, it's sponsored by the U.S. Department of State in the Bureau of Educational and Cultural Affairs and administered by my organization, CIES, again, a division of IIE. This is just a brief Fulbright by the numbers slide. We like to talk about the number of Nobel laureates because that's very impressive. We have Fulbright alum in, I think, practically every foreign government. We have Fulbright alum at every level of our own U.S. government, which is wonderful because it really ensures the bipartisan support that we have here within our own government and the worldwide support that Fulbright enjoys as well. Fulbright scholars are everyone. This is a visual representation of that. One of the things that we make sure to talk about when we're visiting campuses is really to kind of bust any myths that are out there about Fulbright being only for artists and writers, or only for hard scientists, or only for researchers, or people have these very interesting notions about what Fulbright is really intended for, and really we believe that there's a Fulbright opportunity for all different people in all different fields. This is this overall scholar program overview. So you can see the division between the U.S. Core Program, the Visiting Core Program, which are the visiting scholars, IEA seminars, which are for international education administrators, so university administrators, scholar in residence, and faculty development programs as well. And I'll speak a bit more about each of those individually later. The Fulbright U.S. Scholar Program, just a breakdown of the U.S. side. Obviously, the vast majority participating in the Core Scholar Program, with about 8% participating on the IEA seminars that I mentioned. So the Fulbright U.S. Scholar Program supports teaching and or research for anywhere from 3 to 12 or 2 to 12 months. There are programs, active programs in over 125 countries for faculty, administrators, and professionals. Open to all disciplines. Again, as I mentioned, there are opportunities for all. And you apply to a specific award with a proposed project that it's up to you to write. The application deadline for the Core Scholar Program is August 1st. And most hosts are higher education institutions, but there could be other potential hosts that you would see listed in an individual award, which could be a think tank, a research institute, a lab, even a government office, or a museum as well could be potential hosts. So, finding a Fulbright that works for you. It's very important to consider a few different things while you're starting to look for which opportunity you'd like to apply for. We do have something called a flex option, which allows multiple visits to the country over a period of 2 years. And those visits could be very brief, 1 to 2 months, maybe 3 months. And those are available, as you'll see, in many countries and world regions. The advantage of a flex option is sometimes you could make that work with your schedule a little bit easier than, say, a full semester or a year-long experience. Also, for some individuals in different fields, the flex option makes really good sense because the nature of the project is such that you want to go to the country, do some work, come back, maybe analyze data or have some other type of ongoing analysis, and then return to the country again. So it can be a scheduling advantage, but it can also be an advantage for certain types of projects where you don't necessarily need to, or maybe you're not able to be in country for that entire time. We have everything from postdoctoral awards, and for us, we have a couple of awards that are what we typically think of as postdoc. Then we also have awards that are open to what we call early career, meaning having received your PhD in the last 5 years. So all of the way from that, mid-level, all the way up through distinguished chair awards for more senior scholars. Home university affiliation is not required. You can be an artist, a professional, an independent scholar who's not currently affiliated with a particular university in the U.S., and retired scholars are welcome to apply as well. Also, just a quick note that the Fulbright Award is for you as an individual. It does not go to your home institution. So occasionally I get the question, you know, what if my affiliation changes or I become a non-affiliated scholar after I apply? And that's totally fine. You can just let us know that and we'll make you aware of any potential ramifications, but that's totally fine. So basic eligibility criteria, U.S. citizenship, degree as required by award. Most awards do require a terminal degree in your field, not all, but most. And many awards are open to applicants with a master's and professional or academic experience. So they may indicate a certain number of years of teaching experience, for example, in an award, or other types of requirements that they want the applicant to have. And those are all outlined in the individual award descriptions in the catalog. Like I mentioned before, professionals and artists outside of academia with recognized professional standing and substantial accomplishments are welcome to apply to many awards. Again, teaching experience as required. And we do have some new policies on waiting periods between grants. So starting with this cycle, we're gonna have, Fulbright is issuing a 2-year waiting period. So it's not long, but 2-year waiting period between grant activities. So here's a brief visual on the timeline and of how this progresses as far as preparing for your application. So first you'll decide where you want to go, what you want to do. You'll develop your project and identify a location. You may even identify and start communicating with a potential host institution. You will apply by August 1st. your application will then go through the various stages of peer review and selection. And just to note that final selections are made in country. The peer review process here in the U.S. culminates in a list of recommended applicants that moves forward to the in-country process, a process which looks different in each country, a process which we don't have eyes on or input on, and they make the final selections and then notify us of the finalists. And then you take off on your grant. So we have myriad resources. My presentation is just meant to be sort of an appetizer bite, and then you can delve more into these resources at your leisure, and you can communicate with us as you have questions. We have, of course, the Fulbright Scholar Program website and the catalog of awards. Those are going to be your two main resources as you're finding the appropriate award opportunity for you, and as you're looking at the eligibility criteria, the review criteria, and the details about all of the components of your application, which is outlined on our website. There's the application and application instructions. So we have a nice PDF that walks you through every step of the application to hopefully mitigate any questions or confusion or technical challenges. We have application guidelines, project statement guidance, and some samples. We have webinars, which are ongoing right now. Since we launched the catalog in early February, we are ramping up with our outreach season. So we have webinars happening all the time that you can register for and participate in live, and then we archive all of them. So for example, I did a webinar a couple weeks ago on opportunities in Europe and Eurasia. That's archived on our website, and you can simply click and listen at your leisure. But we have all sorts of different webinars, some of which are more of a technical walkthrough of the application. Some are more, how do you write a strong project statement? Some address, what are some of the new opportunities in the catalog this year? So they cover different areas. We also have discipline-focused webinars. So in early May, I will be running a webinar for opportunities in law because law is in my portfolio, but we have them in all different disciplines as well. The Fulbright Scholar blog is a really fun place to just read about others' experiences and sort of get some inspiration. And the My Fulbright is a portal where you can register your interest with the program. And what we use the My Fulbright for a lot is sending out targeted messages. So we'll say, okay, I'm going to message all the people who indicated they're interested in France, or I want to email all of the people who have signed up as someone who's in biology, and we will send specific announcements to those folks. So that's a great way to, you'll then hear from us pretty regularly. If you choose, let's say, every country in Europe, you're going to hear from us pretty often. If you choose maybe 3 different countries around the world, you'll hear just about those sort of appropriate options. Another thing that I just want to mention is our Scholar Directory is online, and that is a list of Scholar alumni, including where they went on their grant and their project title. So you can find that online and run a search. So maybe you're interested in going to Bolivia, and you want to see who in the past has gone to Bolivia and what are the types of things they've done there. That's a search you can run with our online Scholar Directory. Another place, I think, for inspiration as well. Here's just a screenshot of our brand new catalog landing page. Our catalog has entered the 21st century. We're very happy with how beautiful it looks and how user-friendly it is. Some of the search functions are working a little bit better than others. So if you're running some searches and you're really not feeling like you're getting the right results, just send us an email and we can walk through with you maybe over the phone or run a search ourselves and send you a list. But it does look very nice, and you can find all of the opportunities there. It's working pretty well. So when you run a search, you'll get a return like this. This is the card view. There's also a list view. And then you can click on each individual award title for the award description. And I just want to point out that these are different tabs in the blue box. So you can click on the details, the requirements, the benefits, and the country or area overview. So you can actually learn different things about the award by clicking into those tabs. That hasn't been totally self-evident that you can actually click there to learn all about the different elements of the award. Also here on the side, you will find program staff contact information. So if you're looking at a particular award and you have some questions, you can reach out to us. Okay, so let's talk briefly about selecting the right award, which can be sort of feel overwhelming because there are so many opportunities in our catalog. So things to think about, really matching your expertise, experience, and your proposed project to the award description. So a lot of people ask different questions about, how competitive is this award or different things like that. And what we are always going to tell the individual is go back to your fit with the individual award, because that's what's going to be guiding the peer reviewers when they're evaluating your project proposal against what's being asked for in the award description. It really needs to be a solid fit with what the award is looking for and what you're presenting in your application. Now, the award may be presenting something very broad, and you can propose your specific project within that, and that's fine. Or the award description may be quite narrow and specific, and you want to make sure, again, that that's a good fit. A good fit for the country, a good fit for the discipline that may be sought in that particular award. So kind of ticking all of those boxes to make sure that what you are bringing to the experience is a match for what the partner in country is seeking. Regional experience and language ability. I will say that many, probably the vast majority of the awards only require English, and then they will say that depending on the research project that you are proposing, you may need the requisite language experience for what you're proposing. So if you're going to teach and the language of instruction is English, that's fine. If you're going to be doing some intensive on-the-ground research, perhaps interviewing people or looking at primary sources, the review committee is going to be looking either, A, do you have the language capabilities such that you can do that? Or B, are you making a plan to hire a translator? Or maybe is that something the host institution has agreed to provide for you, translation services? So that gets to the feasibility piece, and that you're really prepared and have all the tools you need to successfully complete your project. Discipline preferences listed in the award. Many awards will list disciplines of preference, and you can make sure there's a good match there. And the relevance of the project to the country. Why will the host country benefit from your project? And this is something that I've heard reviewers say. They'll say, this is a lovely application, but why are they applying for Germany versus Austria or someplace else? So addressing that, why this particular country piece, is this a project that could just happen anywhere and you haven't really addressed the need for it in the country or the appropriateness of the country? That's something that definitely needs to be addressed in the proposal. And then finally, career level, which we already spoke about, what level you are in your career and the match again with what the award is looking for. We spoke a bit about flex already. Again, multiple visits, multiple short segment visits. What you really need to do if you're interested in applying for flex is it just really needs to be really clear in your project statement what your timeline's going to be and how that's going to work, because there's obviously a little bit more logistics happening on your end, but also on your host's end. You're going to be kind of coming and going, so it just needs to make sense and be very comprehensible for the peer reviewers of why you're choosing this option and how that makes sense for your proposed project. And if you have a question about flex, please let us know. Also, some of our in-country partners have been very good about stating when an award is open to the flex option. However, if you see something and it looks very appealing to you, but you really think flex is what's going to work best for you, you can get in touch with us and we can check with the host country and see if they would be open to considering that for you. Sometimes I think they just don't really think about the importance to the applicant of checking that flex box, so we could look into that for you and ask them if they're willing to consider. We do have some multi-country opportunities which are very exciting. There's some here listed as regional research programs, and some that are have specific countries that are designated for them. So if you're interested in potentially visiting multiple countries on your Fulbright, I would invite you to look in more detail at the individual award descriptions for these opportunities. And if that's something you're interested in, I can speak with you more in detail. Again, it's just the onus is on the applicant to make a very clear statement and have a very clear plan in the project statement so everyone knows, like, they can handle this, it's going to work. The various host countries and institutions know when they're coming, and it's just a little bit more heavy lifting on the part of the applicant to make sure it's really clear and organized. The Scholar Award is a very unique and exciting opportunity that you might also consider. This was started a few years ago and represents a really significant innovation for the Fulbright program. So instead of the other ones that we just talked about, which are located within a region, this is actually across multiple global regions. So you're going to be proposing visits in at least 2 world regions. So typically 2 to 3 different countries in those different regions, with 2 to 3 segments over as much as 2 years. So something that's interdisciplinary or global in focus could be the type of topic for which this would be appropriate. And then you're going to be, of course, specifying why these particular countries, what you're going to accomplish, and the timeline, again, of how that's going to work. So this is not for everyone, but it is an innovative and very unique award opportunity that I wanted to mention. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about the logistics of the application itself. We have, of course, an application form. It's all online. There's the project statement of 3 to 5 pages. There's a CV of, I think the CV is up to 6 pages for regular awards and up to 10 pages for distinguished chair awards. Course outline or syllabi, if you're going to be teaching, if you're proposing to teach, we'll ask for syllabi. The syllabi do not have to be tailored. They can simply be syllabi of courses that you have taught in the past and would be indicative or exemplary of something that you could teach in country. So you don't have to come up with a whole brand new syllabus. A bibliography if you're going to propose something that involves research. And the select bibliography, if memory serves, is up to 10 pages. And all of those page limits are on our website. 3 letters of reference. And we've got some more details on our website about, depending on what type of award you're applying to, who we would like those letters to be coming from. And then depending on the award, there may be some additional components. So if there is a language component required, or if you're suggesting something where you're going to be using language, we'll have you fill out a language form, and then you may also have a language evaluator fill out a form for you as well. That could be a colleague in the language department. A letter of invitation from your prospective host. Letters of invitation are not always required. So you have to look at the individual award description in the catalog to see whether they want you to seek a letter or not. Some awards actually say, don't seek a letter, we will assist you with that affiliation further on down the line. Some say, letter required, we absolutely want to know that there's a host ready to greet you and host your activity. Or some say the letter is optional. So again, I think if the letter is optional, most times your application is strengthened by submitting that letter and showing that you have a host who is prepared to host your experience in country. And then for folks with in the fields that have a visual component or need a writing sample, those materials can be submitted as well. To speak a bit more in depth about affiliations and invitations, if a host is identified for you, it will again be in the award description in the catalog. Sometimes there's a list of potential hosts. It may be exhaustive, it may not be. It may just say, here are potential hosts, or it may say, choose one of these, or it may say, this will be your host. So again, it really runs the range, and you just need to look at the individual award description. And we do have some resources. If a host is not identified for you and you're feeling a bit overwhelmed about how to make that connection, we do have some resources available on our website, some ideas of how you might locate a potential host. Again, using that scholar directory for some inspiration. Also, if there's a Fulbright commission in the host country, they are oftentimes willing to be in direct communication with you, or I can be in direct communication with them and then communicate back to you. But there are various resources and opportunities to sort of assist that process or point you in the right direction. And a brief note on the letter of invitation. It is a non-binding expression of interest from the proposed host. It should come from the person with whom you will be collaborating, so not necessarily the president or someone super high level. It'll be more that direct contact that you're going to be working with, your potential colleague. And it should be on host institution letterhead. I will just emphasize that first point about non-binding. Oftentimes if someone applies and is not selected for a Fulbright, they say, but I had a really strong letter from my host. And that is excellent, and that is a very strong component of the application. However, it is by no means a guarantee that you will be receiving a Fulbright. So I just like to emphasize that point and make that really clear. The review criteria upon which your application will be reviewed: the applicant credentials, such as professional standing or accomplishments, suitability of the applicant's training, knowledge, skills, and experience, including justification if you have prior experience in the country, or if you've received a prior Fulbright grant. The quality of the proposed project, evidence of personal qualities, again, remembering that this is really a cultural diplomacy program in which the larger mission of Fulbright is that citizen-to-citizen diplomacy. So your reviewers, the folks that are writing your letters of reference, could comment on your adaptability, your ability to be that ambassador for WKU and for the U.S., not in any official role, but just on a person-to-person role, or a person-to-person level. And then potential impact or the value of projected outcomes. I would say that I really want to emphasize the impact. The peer reviewers are really looking at what is the potential for impact of this project, both at the host institution or with the host community, and then back here at your home institution and your home community when you return. So they're really looking for the ripple effect that may come out of your opportunity, or any potential partnerships that could be built. Maybe you're going to come back and you are going to do some virtual links with your classes here and some classes at your host institution and get some virtual exchange going, maybe even some real live exchange, putting people on airplanes and doing an exchange that way. So impact can be found in lots of different ways. It doesn't have to be like, oh, well, we're going to sign an MOU after I come back and have this exchange program. It can be that, but it certainly doesn't need to be. It's just that it's going to have a lasting impact beyond the period of your grant. I also want to comment on the top bullet, the applicant credentials. Again, sort of dispelling some misperceptions. Fulbright is not just for the super senior distinguished chair who has an extremely long list of publications and all of these amazing awards and things. We're really looking for representing the best of American institutions in all of those different capacities. So all different types of institutions, folks who are more focused on teaching, folks who are more focused on research, all different disciplines, so really open to everyone. So I don't want people to get too caught up on that word credentials, as if there's just a bunch of boxes that need to be ticked. It's really, again, going back to the overall fit of what you bring to the experience and how that collaboration is going to take place and the impact of that experience. Okay, a competitive application. Again, the overarching Fulbright goal of promoting mutual understanding and citizen-to-citizen diplomacy. So as I mentioned before, why you're interested in applying for that particular country, the reviewers need to understand why that country. The professional experience, expertise and skills that you can offer, and the benefits to the host. Some of those things I've already mentioned. And we really want this to be a two-way street, a real collaboration, not here's what I'm going to bring, I'm going to show them how we do it in the U.S., that's the better way, da-da-da. And that sort of goes without saying, but you will be surprised, occasionally we get applications that have that tone, and peer reviewers really don't like that for obvious reasons, and that's not the point of the program. It's really to be a mutual collaboration and a two-way street, really to internationalize our perspective, and we can bring that international perspective back to WKU. Cultural diplomacy, as I mentioned, demonstrated flexibility and adaptability. That's something that oftentimes, like I mentioned, your referees can talk about in the letters of reference. Sometimes it's a little difficult to talk about ourselves in that way, but they can certainly address that. Or you can express that in as far as your demonstrated ability to do that, having done certain things in the past. Outcomes, impact, and multiplier effect. So your professional development, impact on your home campus, the students, the field at large. How is this going to impact maybe your colleagues at other institutions here or abroad that are in your field doing similar things? Again, potential for future collaborations and linkages, whether they be official and formalized or whether they be unofficial. So all of these things that really serve to internationalize campus, your own perspective, impacting on your students, etc. So the project statement is your opportunity to lay out your project specifics in as much detail as possible. Again, why Fulbright and why the particular country or why the particular host, and focusing on what you plan to do. So too often people get caught up in spending too much of the space in the project statement talking about what they've done in the past. And that's really, we should be finding that in your CV. What we want your project statement to be is a very specific plan of what you are going to do on your grant experience in country, and then talking about impact as well. So 3 to 5 pages, that you really want to focus on that. How are you going to accomplish it? Your methods and goals. The reviewers will say, this is all lovely, but how are they going to do it? They've talked about lots of lofty ideals and goals, but how? So you can really kind of feel free to get pretty specific about how you're going to accomplish those things. And again, we've talked a lot about impact. And I will say too that one thing that can be really beneficial for your project statement is inviting some of your colleagues to take a look at your project statement. Your application will be reviewed by folks within your discipline who will add some comments on the appropriateness and how up to date you are in your field and the feasibility. And then it will go to a regional committee of folks who have done Fulbrights in your country. So they may be in a totally different field. And all that is to say is you need people both within your discipline and outside of your discipline to be able to access your project statement and understand what you're going to do and why that's important and impactful and why you have to do it in Germany or Ecuador or whatever. So that's challenging. I think we tend to be very siloed within our discipline and write for our colleagues, with lingo and technical terms or other things. But we need to have a balance of that with being accessible and comprehensible to colleagues outside of the discipline. So I always advise people, and I don't know whether people take my advice or not, but invite a colleague from within your discipline to take a look and give you some comments, and then invite someone you may know from across campus in a different department and see what they think, and do they have no idea what you're talking about. That is somewhat mitigated in the review process because the discipline reviewers will apply comments. So if we have someone in English Lit looking at a biochem application, they do have some comments available to them from folks within the field saying, you know, methodologies are up to date, this is appropriate, this represents what's going on in our field. So they have those assurances, but if they still totally can't understand what you're proposing to do, that's going to be a challenge for them when they are, you know, deciding whether to send your application forward. So, okay, timeline. August 1 is the deadline. At that point, we will conduct, my staff in DC will conduct a technical review for completeness of the application. So you will get an email from us saying, you only have 2 letters of reference, not 3, or your CV is too long, or whatever. Then, starting in September, the discipline reviewers will be adding their comments to the applications. Then we enter into the regional review. And again, those are folks who did their Fulbright in the same country to which you're applying. So they're thinking about cultural appropriateness, country and region feasibility, those types of things. Then, so out of those meetings comes a list of recommended and not recommended. You will get an email from us at that point saying, we're so sorry you are not moving forward in this process, or we will say, great news, you are moving forward to the in-country process. So that's what we call recommend versus not recommend. Then from basically during the winter, the in-country selection processes are happening, and their selections are reviewed and approved by the J. William Fulbright Foreign Scholarship Board. And then we are notified then of the final list of selectees, alternates, and non-selects. As soon as we have that information, we then send the letters. So we are notifying, I think our earliest notifications went in December or January. We are still notifying now. Some of our in-country decisions still have not come to us in April. So we continue to notify through mid-late April. Some of our countries need a little nudging. And then, so we notify of those decisions, and then we send some helpful sort of orientation and grant information packets out after you're notified of your status. And then, of course, you then go on your grant, whether it be that fall or the following spring. The only thing I will say is I really want to emphasize, some people get very understandably excited when they know that they're being recommended to the in-country panel. And I think some people have the misperception that the in-country panel is simply a rubber stamp. And it's really, really not. What our job is in the U.S., the U.S. side of the process, is to send forward as many appropriately qualified, strong applications as possible. So the in-country folks, who are the ones who really know what their partners and host institutions are looking for, what the country is looking for, they make the final selections. So it's our job to send forward as robust a list as possible, and then it's their job to whittle that down. And I'd just like to be really upfront with that, because people say, but I was recommended, you know, why wasn't I selected? And we can talk about that. But, you know, I think for the people who really think, oh, they're just gonna rubber stamp it in country, that couldn't, you know, that's really not the case. So I just like to be very upfront and manage expectations surrounding that process. I believe, like I mentioned earlier, every country has their own in-country process for making selections. We have no eyes on that process. We're not involved in any way. Sometimes, though, I do communicate. So, for example, I say, you know, someone, you know, really doesn't understand why they were not selected and they want to reapply in the future. Is there any information I can provide to them that might be helpful? Now, And sometimes they will do that. A lot of times, though, the response is, their application was perfectly good, we just had a set amount of funding, and we couldn't, support that, which is totally understandable, and that's reality. Also, though, the cautionary note that I always give people is, the in-country process is happening within the current context of the priorities of the country in that moment. So next year's priorities for what they're looking for could be different. So I don't want to tell you to change your application in a certain way and then have it not be successful in the future, because that was bad advice because we were operating within that current. So it's really a changing thing depending on sort of what's going on in the country, what are the host institutions, and especially in my region in Europe, there's a lot of things happening and changing at higher ed right now. And so those priorities and what they're looking to bring from the U.S. could be very different from year to year. So just a quick comment on personal and professional impact that we've seen from folks who have done Fulbrights. Increased academic production, new technical knowledge and skills. It's a great opportunity to learn the latest of what's going on in your field in another country or region. The development of intercultural communication skills, really handling those difficult situations on the ground. Enhanced teaching skills and new methodologies, so learning from your colleagues at your host institution about what the latest is. Published research. So we did a survey of a couple of years of alumni, and we found that upwards of 60% of grantees published in peer-reviewed journals after their experience, and 39% of grantees published books or book chapters after their experience. And that can be something you're planning on going into it, or that could be something that grows out of a collaboration while you're in country and then comes out later. And really access to an expansive network of Fulbright alumni around the world, which is very exciting. All right, impact for your home institution, for WKU. So again, you're going to bring back new knowledge. Potentially new courses could be developed out of this. Just renewed energy in general. Scholars' collaborative relationship with the host institution and colleagues in country results in continued dialogue and exchange. I talked about some of those things that we've seen, the virtual classroom exchange experiences, even actual exchanges as well. Maybe then someone from your host comes in and is hosted here. And a real impact on your field, your career. So many people just say that it was, personally just so life-changing. So that's really exciting. So this photo here, I just want to tell you who this is. This is Janine Tongara, Associate Professor of History at Howard University in Washington, D.C., who had a Fulbright Hayes Award to Senegal and Cote d'Ivoire, where she researched indigenous ideologies and the cultural foundations of contemporary African politics. So a really interesting project. Just a brief note on the administrator seminars. I mentioned these at the beginning, the International Education Administrator Seminar. It's a 2-week intensive experience for administrators on campus who have internationalization of their campus as part of their responsibilities. These are the countries and the associated deadlines. I always like to plug these because administrators always feel like there's no Fulbright opportunity for them, but there absolutely is, and these are wonderful programs. I also want to briefly discuss the visiting opportunities. So hosting a visiting scholar, and I'll talk about there's a couple different ways to do that, can be a great opportunity for to bring outside expertise to your campus, to internationalize, to expose your students and your fellow faculty to different ways of thinking and new ideas. Also, it's a great way to make connections for potential hosts for you or your colleagues down the line. So we really see these partnerships develop that can be productive over many years. So here's just a brief breakdown of what that looks like. So the Core Visiting Scholar Program, which is just the reverse of what we've been talking about. the Scholar in Residence program, the Outreach Lecturing Fund, for which Western Kentucky has been pretty active, and I'm encouraging Western Kentucky to be more active, faculty development programs, and collaborative research. And for all of these things, I encourage you to talk to Anna, and she can kind of tell you a little bit more about that and coordinate with our office as far as those types of opportunities. And especially, I think people get a little bit scared of the commitment about hosting a visiting scholar and the funding that may be involved. The Outreach Lecturing Fund, we actually provide some funding for that, and it's just a short experience where they come to campus for a few days and give some lectures, maybe guest in a class, meet with the faculty, that type of thing. And you just have to cover some local expenses, and we pay for them to get here. So that's really, really exciting. Those are the Outreach Lecturing Fund. Those are visiting scholars from abroad who are being hosted at different universities around the U.S. for their entire, semester or year. And it's a good opportunity for them to also visit a different region of the U.S. for a few days while they're here. So it's kind of a win-win all around. Just to speak more in depth about the Core Visiting Scholar Program, so you can see the breakdown of very little on the teaching side, a little bit more on teaching research, the vast majority happening at the research level. And again, I'm going to kind of let you, if you or your department are interested in this, I'm going to let you speak with Anna and work with her office. This is our responsibilities for the Core program, for the Core Visiting Scholar program, so we really facilitate that process. This is a visiting research associate, Celine Khan, from Chennai, India, just a couple years ago, 2015, visiting scholar, and he conducted research at Columbia. Scholar in residence, again, I'm going to kind of flip forward. More details on OLF. Just to show that we also do many faculty development programs. Again, this is administered by CIES-IIE. So in lots of different disciplines from various countries for mostly junior development. So those are really, really unique and exciting programs in which they come and do tours around the U.S. and visit different universities in the U.S. So just a note on other Fulbright programs, of course, the student program, and I know Western Kentucky has a good track record with the student program, that's wonderful. The Distinguished Awards in Teaching program, we run that as well. The Fulbright Specialist program is run by an organization called World Learning. Those are for more specific, more professional short-term experiences, sort of bringing a particular service or expertise to a country that needs it. And then the Fulbright Hayes Award, which I think you're familiar with, which is Department of Education. And last slide, just ways to be in touch. So I really want to get to your all's questions and what you want to talk about. I hope this has been a helpful presentation, just sort of exposing you to our catalog and the resources available, but I'm really happy to get more in depth with any questions. And this will be made available, the recording and the link to the PowerPoint will be made available on your website, right? Yeah. And props to Anna too, because I don't know if you all know, but there's a website on WKU's website that's totally for Fulbright and has all the links. And
yep, it's right behind you, Megan.
It is? There it is. This is wonderful. This is such a resource. So.
Well, thank you so much, Megan. So if we want to open the floor to questions, and again, just let me know. I'll pass you the mic so our folks watching this can know what you have to ask. Well, I might open the floor then if you guys are shy. I have a question for you, Megan. So watching a lot of the webinars, I've noticed some of them have mentioned encouraging faculty to think beyond the major capital cities in countries, as this helps diversify where the Fulbright scholars are going to have a greater impact in country. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure, absolutely. I think this is something that our in-country partners really appreciate. Just like we from the U.S. side want to represent the full scope and diversity of the United States, they want their host country, that full range and diversity of institutions within their country to have access to that expertise and those partnerships. So that happens in different ways. For example, I was looking at an award earlier that in China that specifically stated preference for host institutions outside of some of the major cities. Some of them won't be as explicit about those statements, but sometimes you can kind of get a sense. But I think finding a host that's a really great fit for you and thinking beyond just the capital cities, maybe it's in a particular region that has an expertise. So for example, in France, which is also in my portfolio, France has actually institutionalized this by offering what they call regional awards, in which the regional government actually pitches in some funds along with the commission, and you have to live and conduct your teaching or research within this particular region. And the regions have some very specific interests. And actually, interestingly enough, in some of these regions in France, they're very STEM focused. They have a lot going on in STEM. They want to bring some outside expertise to engage on that level. So that's just one specific example. But yeah, I think thinking beyond to more medium-sized cities or even smaller towns is great. I also think that just sets you apart. That makes your application a little bit different from maybe some of the others. And the in-country hosts, and I can never speak for them, but they may find that unique and intriguing, that you are excited about that opportunity and want to really engage with those colleagues. And so if anyone has thoughts on that, we can speak more specifically, but I think that's a really great thing to point out.
So on the web page, there are so many different awards, and there is the regular Fulbright Scholar. So as an applicant, are we allowed to apply multiple awards, or do we have to apply only one thing and just one thing?
You have to pick one. And I know people find that disappointing. And really, it gets back to really wanting that fit between the applicant and the proposed award or proposed host. So tailoring the application and having it be just a really strong, solid commitment to that opportunity. But you bring up the All Disciplines Awards, which is very important. So many countries have these specific awards that are either in specific disciplines or at specific host institutions, but also they have these awards called All Disciplines Awards. And unless otherwise stated, those awards truly are open to all disciplines. And that's an opportunity to think about what is the fit for your area of expertise with what's going on in that country or what's going on in a particular region of that country. And the onus is on the applicant to really demonstrate that what you have to offer is a great fit for what's going on in the country and the fit for the potential host needs and what you can bring and how that collaboration is going to work, and that that'll make sense and be impactful. But we definitely don't want to discount the All Disciplines Awards. That's actually something that we have been very encouraging of our in-country partners to think about. Sometimes the awards can be a bit all over the place, and to the extent possible, kind of limiting the options because the catalog can be so unruly and so overwhelming. And if they're willing to focus things into the all disciplines, which can capture more potential applicants at whatever potential hosts they may suggest, that can be a way of kind of inspiring some creativity and giving them sort of a wide-ranging, robust pool of applications. Sometimes these super niche awards can be very challenging for us to recruit for, and then it's just kind of disappointing for the country that we haven't been able to provide them with many applications in nanotechnology or a certain type of laser beam research or something. And sometimes those awards are structured in that way because they're getting some partnership funding. And so that's the reason for that designation. That's oftentimes the case. But to the extent possible that we can capture people within the all disciplines, and there are more than grants available within that award, that's a good way to leave a maximum flexibility for you as an applicant to propose what works best.
Can you share some statistics about, in the U.S., applications for the regular Fulbright Scholar versus specific projects, or depending on the country?
I cannot actually, and sort of as a philosophy, we don't share numbers because the catalog changes every year. So it's not, we then wouldn't be really comparing apples to apples. And also we are kind of pushing them to a certain degree, not hard, but encouraging them to consider the all disciplines as a place to encapsulate those different specialties. So that's a great question. The other reason that we're hesitant to share numbers, I think, is that you find people asking a lot of questions along those lines because they're trying to sort of play a numbers game with the catalog, and really what that results in is a less strong application and maybe not as great of a fit with the award or with the host. And so that's where we're again pushing people towards focus on the host that makes the most sense, or the award, the specific award that makes the most sense. Again, sometimes that'll be the all disciplines and then a specific host. But focus on that and making a really solid application. And that's what should, make it through. So I certainly understand the desire for numbers, and that that type of information can be helpful. But that's some of the thought process behind why Fulbright doesn't share those things. Yeah.
I'm assuming the funding for this comes from the U.S. Department of Education.
Department
of State.
Mm-hmm.
Is it in jeopardy?
That's a great question.
And is there anything we can do as interested faculty and possible participants to help it not be in jeopardy?
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's a really great question. Yeah. So we, as you may have seen, some of the draft budgets for the next fiscal year have come out. There have been proposed cuts for other international education programs, but not for the Fulbright program. So we are cautiously optimistic for Fulbright. We are operating as sort of a business as usual. To be conservative, I think we're not assuming growth, but maybe assuming steady state for funding. Also, it's important to remember that for a lot of the awards, funding also comes from the Fulbright Commission in country, the host government, host institutions, or other bodies within the country may be partially funding as well. So obviously, yes, the funding is congressionally appropriated through the State Department, and we're cautiously optimistic about that. As far as what you can do, as private citizens who are passionate about international exchange and are passionate and wanting to have the opportunity to do Fulbright, you can always be in touch with your representatives in Washington to say, listen, this is important to me. This is important to our campus. This is important to our local economy. So you're always welcome to do that as a private citizen. Of course, you're not representing, IIE or the Fulbright program officially. That is a question that I do get, and we in the field are so happy for passionate people who care about the future of exchanges to be in touch with your representatives and to state that. So, yep. Mm-hmm.
Great question. Thank you, Yvonne. So we are right at the 2:00 hour. So I think it's time if we want to conclude. Thank you guys so much for coming. Just wanted to make a couple quick announcements. If you have additional questions for Meaghan, she's got her cards on the back table. And then also I'm happy to put you in touch. And then we still have a couple slots open for individual meetings. So if you still want to meet with Meaghan, we've got some time for tomorrow. And then also wanted to point you to other Fulbright Week events. So tomorrow we've got our Fulbright Scholar Alumni Panel. And we just recently heard in the last 2 weeks that Dr. Sandra Audrey has received a Fulbright to South Africa. So she will be joining us on the panel tomorrow. Very exciting. And then we also have one of our Outreach Lecturing Fund scholars visiting campus from South Korea via She's currently being hosted at Duke University, but she will be giving a talk tomorrow afternoon at 3:30. We've also got a webinar that we've posted on our website through CIES, but CIES, as Meaghan said, does multiple webinars throughout the year. Excuse me. So, but yeah, thank you so much, Meaghan, and have a great rest of the day, everybody.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much.